Hey everybody, Michigan here, and back with another replay for you. This time we are continuing the Battle Breakdown series. This one is number 7. So in this battle, I am calling against old men on Fish Bay. So I'm going to pause this, as we normally do, and there'll be quite a lot of pausing. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, I pause the battle a lot. I talk about why I'm calling what I'm calling, what the purpose is, and kind of what my strategy is. So, as we start this 10-second countdown timer, my initial call is going to be for all the chieftains to come into the middle there. I'm going to blow my mini-map up so that everybody can see it. I'm going to have 3 AMXs out on the 7-8. I'm going to put my Sturv at Bravo 2, and I'm going to have 1 EBR going down this side of the map on the 2-3 line, and then 1 EBR going down the 6-7. Now, why do I do this? So, the middle is extremely important on this map. Now, even if you don't take the middle, you can take either the 7 or 8 or the 1 and 2. However, it becomes increasingly difficult to hold it, and oftentimes it becomes more trouble than it's worth. So instead what we're going to do is we are going to put so many tanks in the middle that the enemy cannot possibly have that many. And from there, we can rotate them. Going back to the minimap, we can rotate them into the city. We can rotate them to the 1-2. Now, it's not as easy to rotate them to the 1-2. But we have options. Now, the 3 AMXs, 7-8, let's talk about that. So, the 7-8 line, it's kind of like, let's see if I can zoom, it's not letting me zoom out here, for whatever reason. The 7-8 has a lot of very sparsely, destructible and non-destructible buildings, and it's actually a good place for defense. And the reason for that is if you hug the red line, the enemies have to cross a fair bit of open field, and anything middle can actually turn and get shots. Now, why AMXs? Well, the AMX has a good balance of hit points, armor, and it has a very nice 530 alpha gun. And that's important for a tank on defense because when they choose to poke, we know they're out trading them. If we put a medium over there, let's say, he's going to hit for 320 or maybe 390, and the enemy tanks, which are most likely heavies, are going to hit him for 440. So that's basic trading principles there. Now, last but not least, before we can get this battle underway, Sturv at Bravo 2. Now, the 1-2 line is a magnet for EBRs. Pretty much on every battle with an EBR, at least one, you're going to have a Sturv going to the 2-3 line. Now, from this case, they're probably going to do a big circle. Sometimes EBRs will run through the city. Normally, if they only have one, they're not going to be going 6-7. They'll be going 2-3. So the Sturv is going to be there to assist. Now, the Sturv also can support the 1-2 if anything decides to push down there. However, obviously, that Sturv can't fend for themselves. So the Sturv has been instructed if anything pushes them on the 1-2, they're going to fall back to A6. Now what this does is that this prevents tanks from running around down D4, D5 when we're taking middle. Especially since this strat is intended to take the 8-9 line using a chieftain rotation from the middle. So the Sturv at A6 means that they're going to pretty much wreck any tank that decides to come on the outer edge of the city, basically keeping all the tanks funneled into the middle. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. So, we've got the exact lineup we're looking for, minus some chieftains. So, instead, we're going to run S-Conks, which is an appropriate replacement. And those S-Conks can work out on the far right of this. Now, they don't have better armor necessarily, but they do have better DPM, and that's going to come into play later. The S-Conk also has less maneuverability than the chieftain, so the 2 tanks on the right that I call for oftentimes are more stagnant, so it makes sense and an S-Conk would be there. Now, the whole goal of the strat, as you heard me mention earlier, is you can see, so right off the bat, actually, before we get to that, is that 3 chieftains misunderstood my call. It may have been a little confusing, so we're going to fix that in a moment. But the goal is to push down the 8-9, and then rotate chieftains in on this side if you're following my mouse on the minimap. We're going to rotate the chieftains from this side. Let me just zoom out. Not sure why I can't zoom out, but we're going to rotate them around this way. And that means that we can pretty much kick the heavies out and they have to start backing up to the left. So right off the bat, the enemies have brought tanks in the middle. Pretty standard. Now they've also brought 4 907s, a Ho-Re 3, a Sturv, and 2 version 4s, as well as an E3. Now you can see the 1 EBR there. Unfortunately, our EBR got the worst end of the deal. And their EBR is still full health. So we're going to work around. Now I'm calling for the AMXs to move up. The EBR just scouted the city, and we know that there probably isn't much over there. That doesn't mean that there aren't tanks over there. So what I'm going to do is probably send the EBR in for another run. Now, we know that there's nothing pushing down there, so why move the AMXs up? Well, this way, if the AMXs get pushed, we're going to know. And they didn't push everything outright. The point of the AMXs being defensive is that if they're facing a superior force, that they're going to better be able to prep for defense, as well as allowing some of their teammates from the middle to get shots. But since we know they're not pushing 7-8 with a superior force, at least not yet, that then we can push the AMXs up there, and that way they can get shots and still back up, if a superior force pushes. Normally, when a team pushes 8-9, a lot of times it's from the beginning. However, sometimes there are delayed pushes, but, you know, this is a game of numbers sometimes, and you've got to take risks. So I'm going to have the EBR spot in there, just in case. Not too much going on here. We're trading okay. A couple of tanks have lost quite a bit of health. Our EBR is now down to a one-shot, so I'm going to instruct him to just go past it. EBRs have to stay alive. Now, while they don't have the greatest DPM, they're a crucial asset for, you know, a caller. Without lights, a caller's hand is reduced by about, I would say, 70 to 80%. What they're able to do is vastly limited. Now, the bigger the map, the worse it is. So, on this map, it's about a moderate disadvantage if you lose both your lights. So, you can see, and they're looking for tanks, not seeing anything. Looking around, so there's a couple of tanks. I didn't quite spot them, so I'm going to call the AMXs to move in, and I'm also calling for 3 chieftains. So, those 3 chieftains are going to support. Now, you would say, well, why? That's kind of overkill. Actually, 2 chieftains. I'm going to get the third one over in a second. Well, that's overkill. Well, we still have another version 4, 2 version 4s unlit, and a bunch of mediums. So, I'm going to call those chieftains to go after the AMXs, and the chieftain is pretty much quicker than the AMXs. So, they're going to be able to get in there. Be able to meet up with the AMXs early. So, right now, if we pause again, you can see stage 2, and this is really bugging me. I'm not sure. Maybe World of Tanks is bugged. There we go. You're going to just have to bear with me. We're going to use the minimap here. Is that once we secure this area, you know, on the back part where the little pond is that these tanks can now start to shoot up. But what we're also going to do is we're going to flex tanks over. Now, why do that if they're going to shoot us in, if these tanks are going to shoot in the back anyway? Well, what's going to happen, same here that we spoke about earlier. The AMXs are here. If the enemy push in this way towards him, we're going to get shots. It's the same on the reverse side. So if we don't pressure these S-conks or these chieftains and S-conks in the middle to shoot us, the AMXs are going to get butchered from the side. So we have to put on pressure, and we're going to use pressure from this side, from the front, and from the side to really try and take them away from those other tanks. So in a moment here, we're going to let our AMXs engage, and then we're going to push. Now we have to be wary, because oftentimes J1, K1, K2, there are enemy vehicles. Now, note I haven't called the Sturv to move. The Sturv already knows what his position is, and so far, nobody's pushing him. So right now, we're kind of doing a bit of a mix. We're both supporting the tanks pushing, but we're also trying to clear those chieftains out. So I'm going to call the S-conks to move up in a second. I'm going to drop Artie. I know there's something behind the wall. So what I'm trying to do is, let's just pause it again with the Artie strike, is that this building right in front of us, kind of blocked by the tree, is allowing that chieftain to almost angle or side scrape off of it. So we're going to use the Artie strike and just kick that chieftain out. And now HD Tankman and I are going to start to lay into those chieftains. And now these chieftains have a whole lot more to think about than the AMX pushing. They have a threat right in front of them, and more often than not, players are going to focus on what's directly in front of them rather than something much further off. So I still haven't activated Inspire. I believe I thought I activated it, but I think I pressed the setting key again. So in a moment, I'll get that Inspire off. Now you can see I've called the S-conks up, and if we just pause it again, we've now caught them in a crossfire. We have a huge right angle on them, and I'm about to extend it even further. The AMXs have completely decimated their side. However, they have pushed an EBR up. So, per Gwen's instructions, he's going to immediately move back to Alpha 6 so that he doesn't get crossfired. We're still missing a couple of tanks, and we don't want them getting up into Bravo 2. At this point, we are up 4 tanks. However, we're down hit points, and we're still missing a Sturv. And we know he's back during K1, K2, and that Sturv could be quite a bit. So I'm going to move up there. There's the Inspire. Unfortunately, should have been dropped much earlier because right now, I believe it's only impacting me, and that's a very poor use of the drop. Taking a punt there, and we are going to have to make a major adjustment. So what happens oftentimes with this strat, pause again, is that the tanks that have cleared this out now become a liability. The reasoning for that is that, you know, often we have mediums here, or we'll have a light or something, or even the Sturv can outspot these heavies. Now all these heavies get bottlenecked right there where Nygaard is behind the rock. And what that means is the enemies just lay into it. What we need is we need multiple angles. And right now, we have got this angle, and we have got this angle. That's two. That's not enough. So we're going to correct that later on in this battle. But it's something that you want to look out for. We're just finishing off there, and now you can see these chieftains are taking hits. HG Tankman behind me is taking hits from 140s and a CS. The heavies on the south are doing the best they can. HG is going to fall, unfortunately. And there we go. So there's the Sturv. I'm not quite sure how we lit that guy. And in a second, I'm going to call for that adjustment. Now, just look at the bottleneck that I'm talking about. Look how many tanks are over there. Other than Tank Killer and YTF, we have 4 tanks all jammed up in not even one sector, but a section of the sector. And that is just not good for the situation we're in. We're even on hit points, but we're up on tanks. So putting all of our guns in one area isn't going to work. The best way to handle this situation is to try and outflank the enemy in as many ways as possible, using our gun advantage. We don't have a hit point advantage. We can't cross this field here because that's suicide. We have a Sturv with 4,000 DPM and 4 mediums that have about 3,700 DPM. They will get toasted. We cannot... A big concept here. When you're up on guns, you have to outflank. When you're up on HP, that's when you push. Big difference there. Do not push when you're up on guns, but even on HP, because you'll probably lose it. Or at least you're not guaranteed the win. So, good thing to remember there. Maybe I'll do a Collar's concept video on that one. So, you're going to make it... There you go. See, there's the rotation. And those heavies are bleeding health. You can see 3 of them just took hits. So, we're going to get out of that situation. Now, we don't want to abandon it entirely, but we only need 1 tank there, really. You know, maybe 2, but we have 2 one-shots over there who are going to do the job just fine. I called the Sturv to move up. Now, I'm confident Gwen's a good Sturv player, so I think he can handle that EBR. Now, he also has support from the mid in the form of the SCOM. So, and I also don't think that EBR is going to hang out there. So, there's the rotation called for. Now, you might say, well, let me pause it again. You only got, you know, Michigan, you only got 3 minutes, 42 seconds, and you're going to rotate over the entire map. Well, yes, but... traditionally, you would rotate all the way back using the red line. We've cleared everything out from the middle. Therefore, we can use the D line as a shortcut. Now, I've instructed the 2 tanks middle to just hold. They have good spots. There's no need for them to leave, and they're both one-shots. So, their best is just hang out in the rear and, you know, just snipe. So, I'm going to fire on the move there. I'm not going to bother to stop. I don't feel like it's necessary. I'm going to take shots. If they hit, they hit. But right now, again, while I didn't say that time was an issue, it's still a factor. So me stopping to wait for this EBR to poke, and, you know, maybe he ducks back down, and I might waste 30 seconds there, isn't worth it. And this battle is going to come down to, you know, a fairly low amount of time. It's all about when to rotate and when not to. We have him pinned in the corner, but a lot of those guys are full. So I'm going to make a mistake there. I actually should have gone a little bit further over, or at least not stopped to shoot the EBR. I was just trying to get him out. I knew I might take a hit, and hindsight is 20/20 there. I should have just fired on the move, as that EBR was almost behind. So I'm going to work in an interesting spot. Now, this spot that I'm going to is normally suicide, especially if the enemies control the middle, but they don't control the middle, so it provides a great hold-on area, which works perfectly for the chieftain. So I'm going to spot an out of 7 there, and now you can see that we have many more angles of fire. You could say we could put a tank here, but that's fairly open. And a lot of our tanks are one-shots. As a matter of fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-shots out of our 9 tanks left. So over half of our team are in low health. The turret of the chieftain there working really well. And Jackwagon, from the middle actually, one of the one-shots who hung out is going to finish off that EBR with a probably 300-meter shot there. It tracked an out of 7 there. Got lucky. I was hoping people would be able to get shots. Unfortunately, we are going to lose an AMX down there. One of the one-shots, Rage, unfortunately, probably gets lit by the Sturv. Maybe he fired at the 907, and that's going to get him killed. No worries, you're going to lose tanks in this scenario. Now you can see, we have got all the tanks with health, other than the one on the low side, Rising Fury, over right on top of the enemy. And this is exactly the setup that you want, and why I'm featuring this. Is that now the tanks with health can go in there and spot while also taking hits. Remember, we don't have any EBRs left. So we're going to have to spot these tanks, with heavies. Now the Sturv has also moved up, which, while they don't have... The Sturv really isn't a tank that should be taking hits. What is the Sturv going to shoot from Bravo 2? There's nothing over there. Even from Echo 2, Gwen recognizes that the berm that I'm using right now is going to prevent him from getting shots. So he's going to use the Sturv and put it in a very aggressive position. That's a great play there. Looking for it again. We are now down to the 2-minute warning here as this timer clicks down. Niger gets shot. There's the 907. That guy's going to be a thorn. So now we're looking for the outcrop again, or that's what I'm looking for as a caller. And the tank that's going to be the biggest problem right now that we can clear out the easiest is going to be that full health 907. We have plenty of tanks in position to shoot it. And we pretty much have it permalit. So what I'm going to do is, I believe that with Gwen there, Edge, and Nygaard, then I can actually get another angle of attack. So we've secured the 2-line, and now I am going to take my Chieftain that has pretty much the most health, other than Rising Fury down there on the K-line, into the next most dangerous position. We still are only up 15, we're up 2k now, which is a good solid amount, but with Edge getting destroyed, he pushed quite aggressively over, looking to take out that 907. We're going to only be down set. We're only up 1,704 vehicles. So I'm going to look for this 907 here. And YTF is going to get a great shot off there. Nygaard comes south with me. Unfortunately, I'm not going to really be able to save him as he's above me. And I'm looking to block him, but it's not going to work. Now, here's an interesting situation. This is more of a personal skill, is that I know that 907 is coming behind me. However, I've also got this guy that I'm chasing, and my momentum is facing towards this 988. He's a 2-shot for me. If I turn around and try and climb up the hill, this 907 is going to get shots at me, and probably this 907 is just going to turn around. So instead of focusing the 1-shot, I'm going to go for what I know I can kill. And I know I can use this rock here in front of me to handle this 907. Now we have one Sturv left. The Sturv is going to finish off Gunny, but now we are up 9-13, and I'm going to put one more shot in here. All I need is one more. Now, 56 seconds, 55, the 907 is going to put one into me. I'm going to blow a shot at him. I was actually going for his drive wheel there. Probably didn't need to. I should have just shot down on his hull. I'm going to blow another shot, but I'm going to finish him off. And with 38 seconds left, we're going to finish this game. You can see tanks converging in from multiple angles there. If I hadn't finished this 907 off and he finished me, probably Gwen or one of the other tanks would have been able to come in there. So that's the breakdown of this battle. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.